Okay, good evening. I think we're live. I hope my audio is okay. Can you let me know in the chat if there's any discrepancy from the audio or the video side? Welcome back to the lecture series. Today we are continuing yesterday's topic, which was Para Jumbles. Good evening, Rajneesh. I hope you guys practice some questions for the while and also the homework question that I had given yesterday. Okay, we had left it on this question yesterday. So we will begin our lecture with a discussion of this, but assuming that not everyone might have done the question, I will give you guys 5 minutes again. Till that time, if you're done with this question, kindly quickly revise the theory that we had done yesterday. Okay, because we are definitely stepping up the level of questions that we did yesterday. So these questions are good difficulty level. Okay, so if you're done with the question, quickly revise. Otherwise, start solving with this question. Okay, four statements, unjumble them. Try to recall the strategy that we did yesterday. Okay, the approach that we did yesterday, and follow that. Okay, the follower leader, making pairs, trying to find the opening statement. Okay, trying to find the structure, and then once you're done making the sequence, please read in that sequence to check if your sequence is correct or not. All right. Good evening, everybody. Okay, it's nice to see some people consistently. So I can see that you people are very committed to the journey. So I'm really glad. Okay, all the people who are quite consistent, I'm also very open to any remarks that you have. If there's any changes, any additions that you would like to me to make, any lectures, extra lectures you would want to have, if you want to me to have more practice sessions, let me know on what particular chapter or when exactly. I will try to implement them in the lecture series. Good evening, Bharti. Good evening, Chaitanya. Again, whatever sequence that you've gone for, please read it in that sequence. Also, I can see certain hints here. For example, the biggest proof of this is, okay, we have done this demonstrative pronoun points to something. So the biggest proof of what is? You get that Hindu majority country, a Muslim man has been supreme box office star for decades. Seems like there's something uh, being discussed about religion or caste, right? So you need to connect this idea to that. The example is for religion, right? So connect this idea with a previous sentence that talks about religion. So what statement would that be? Kindly check. Okay, and also always go, I think this was mentioned, go from general to specific. So first you will give all the generalized statements and then you will go specific. Okay, I have a couple of answers. Okay, now let's see if your answers are correct or not. You can definitely reconsider and change, but please understand the logic behind your misunderstanding or your mistakes so you can avoid them in the other questions. ठीक है, मैंने एक चीज बताई थी कल, एक बहुत ही बढ़िया ट्रिक बताई थी कि जब डबल इन्वर्टेड कॉमर्स में एक वर्ड है तो good there's a good chance or it's a very obvious chance that this word has been used for the first time. So Bollywood has been used multiple times in all the sentences, but this Bollywood that is enclosed in double inverted commas is the introduction of the keyword Bollywood. Hence, that will come before all the sentences that has the word Bollywood in it, which is technically all of them. So this is your first statement. Statement 2. तो मिल गया मेरे को मेरा ओपनर, मिल गया मुझे मेरा मेन आइडिया. Filmmaking thrives in plenty of other cities in India, but Bollywood has become shorthand for Indian cinema as a whole. Understood. Okay, it's a very general statement. Okay, now let's read the other statements. One is an example of some statement. So let us see one किसका example है. ठीक है, one is talking about religion. So let's see ये किसका example है. Fourth is talking about for nearly a century, Bollywood has also worn the warm, self-satisfied gloss of being a passion that unifies a country of divisions. Okay, now what kind of divisions? Divisions could be on anything. They could be on gender, they could be on social status, any status or anything. Statement 1, not only because its audience are as mixed as India itself, but also because it is a place where caste and religion don't matter. There you go. I found my partner for 3. Okay, we found it. 3 and 1 should go together. Now, obviously, 3 is an example, तो वो बाद में आएगा. ठीक है, the biggest proof of this is किसका 1 का, तो पहले 1 लिखा जाएगा फिर 3. तो इनका chronology ये है. So 1 and 3 is done. They will come after 2, obviously. Now we're left with 4. Let's see where to put this one. For nearly a century, Bollywood has also worn the gloss for that unifies a country of divisions. Obviously, divisions is pointed to caste and religion, right? So again, this is a general statement. So this should go before 1 and 3. After 1 and 3, it will not make any sense because look at this word also. It connects with sentence 2. Okay, 2 में बोला है Bollywood has become a shorthand. It represents India as a whole. And then it is also the self-satisfied gloss of being a passion that unifies the country of divisions. So the word also continues the discussion of the word Bollywood, right? So statement 2 is the opening idea. Statement 4 is the continuation of the idea in statement 2, which is Bollywood. So the answer for this one should be 2413. Okay, if there's any doubt, if you feel like there's any conflict of interest, if you feel like uh, you couldn't understand the explanation, please let me know. But this is the answer sequence for the homework question yesterday. So if this is what your sequence was, good job. Now let's try another one. Try to avoid making the same mistakes again. 5 statements this time. Okay, we have done 4 statements a lot. 5 statements this time. Try to be very objective. Try to find pairs, okay, and then read it in the sequence once you lock it. Try to find certain hints. You will find multiple hints on pronouns, on structure, that will help you make pairs. I'll give you guys 5 minutes for this again. I think there's a word missing here. Let me quickly add it. There should be a word and here. So statement 1 starts with and the kind of bad thinking. Okay, I see a couple of answers. So let's get into the discussion of it. I will again approach it like how would I would approach it in the exam. So I will just quickly read. Oh, I'm sorry. I will quickly read all the statements and try to find an opener. So I can see statement 5 is a very general sentence, and it's quite a dead one because it does not really have a hint. It says something is profoundly amiss. Amiss, I hope you know the meaning of the word. इसका मतलब होता है wrong. Then I'll quickly read all of them. I can see such movements. Then it's pointing to some specific movements. Then again, I can see the movements being discussed again in statement 1. So 1 and 3 are talking about movements and should come after the movements are introduced, which I can see are being introduced in statement 4. Formerly fringe movements such as so and so. Okay. And then 2 does not talk about any of them. Actually, is a very general statement. Okay. So let me start making pairs now. Fourth one is formally fringe movements such as certain community specific rumors and unscientific health fads are increasingly prominent in Indian public discourse. Now, a little knowledge on vocabulary will help you in understanding the context. अगर ऊपर ऊपर से पढ़ के समझा होगा, the context here is the misinformation, the propaganda that is spread around certain communities. फ्रिंज मूवमेंट्स होते हैं, एक्सट्रीमिस्ट मूवमेंट्स होते हैं जो अनकन्वेंशनल ओपिनियन पे या एक्सट्रीम ओपिनियन पे बनते हैं. सो फॉर्मली फ्रिंज मूवमेंट्स इज द इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ मूवमेंट्स एंड देन कम्स ये वाले स्टेटमेंट. तो फिर इनको भी लगा लेते हैं. सच मूवमेंट्स एंड 1 3 एंड 1 में से बाद में कौन सा आना चाहिए? आई हैव टू फिगर दैट आउट. Third one says such movements have been the driving force behind political agendas and have sparked numerous protest movements across the country. And the kind of bad thinking we see in display in these movements is a special kind of intellectual failing, distinct from mere lack of education, misinformation, or intellectual slowness. So you can see the statement 1 is starting with the word and. I told you conjunctions are the biggest giveaway when making pairs. And is an extension of a statement. ठीक है, I like reading and writing. I like and writing, reading नहीं बोल सकते, right? I have to mention the first statement, which is I like reading. Okay, the liking part or the discussion part has to be mentioned before. So such movements will be mentioned before, and then the extension of the discussion on the movements will be added later. So only because of the word and, only because of that single word, will I place statement 1 after 3. All right, so now I'm done with these statements. Let me quickly tick them off. Now we're left with these two statements. फिफ्थ वाला तो डेड है, या तो लास्ट में आएगा या स्टार्टिंग में. ठीक है, उसका लास्ट में देखते हैं. लेट अस लुक एट स्टेटमेंट 2. An alarming number of citizens in India and around the world are embracing irrational, even hazardous ideologies. Now, after reading 431, I have realized that it's talking about some movements and the spreading of propaganda and misinformation and based on their ideologies. So 2 could be a perfect introduction of the movements that are being discussed in 4, 3 and 1. Okay, and now coming to statement 5. Something is profoundly wrong. Something is seriously wrong. Where do we put this? After 1, will it make sense? 1 ends on, and the kind of bad thinking is a result of poor education, misinformation, and intellectual slowness. We can put it at the end also, but it will make more sense if you put it in the beginning. Why? Because this sets the tone of the paragraph. Now, if you read it in this sequence, it will read in a proper flow. Something is profoundly, seriously wrong. Okay, then alarming number of citizens, what is exactly that is wrong is answered in the following statements. An alarming number of citizens in India and around the world are embracing irrational, even dangerous ideologies. Then, what are these ideologies and how are they built? Further explained through the movements. So, the order should be 5, dead sentence but makes most sense in the introduction. Then 2, which is a generalized statement as compared to 4, 3 and 1. इसलिए उन तीनों से पहले लगेगा. So this should be the sequence of the answer. 5, 2, 4, 3, 1. Okay, so good job to all of you who had gotten this right. Okay, I can see a couple of the statements being idhar udhar. That is also fine. Try to understand why even one or two statements jo idhar udhar ho rahe hain. Why is that happening? Okay, I will move to the next question. If there's any doubt, please put it in the chat. I will come back to it if you want. All right, let's move to the next one then. 6 statements here. Okay, oh, definitely up the ante. Sometimes 6 can happen. So 6 statements can happen. So 6 statements here. Try to unjumble them. If you read it, upar se, this, you will realize this is a narrative, a story. So kindly recall what I had told you about stories and follow that same strategy. I'll give you guys 5 minutes. Okay, let's now review the question. Now, although there are six statements, could look very intimidating, but it's very easy because it's reading like a story. So, whenever you come across a para jumble that is a story, please attempt it because it's very easy. ठीक है ये पूरी कहानी है. If you run through it, you will find it's about Chacha Chaudhary comics and its origin of it. Now, let's try making pairs and try to find an opener here. Fifth, so that's how. Definitely not an opener. Fourth starts with but. Definitely not an opener. Third one starts with it's a classical Indian success story on a couple of levels. What is a success story? Okay, not mentioned. So definitely a follower, not a leader. Second one, when the story appeared, which story? Okay, आगे की lines में भी नहीं mentioned है कौन सी story. So this is definitely again another follower. All of these are followers. All of them have partners here. One starts with again his real world origin is more humble. Whose real world origin? So this is also not an opener. Statement 6 is a clear cut starter. Everyone knows the Chacha Chaudhary story. A wise elderly man with a sharp mind and a loyal alien companion solving everyday problems and outsmarting villains with common sense. Okay. ले लिया मैंने 6 as my opening. Now, something that I see it happening here also, is people following statement 3 right after 6. Okay, putting 3 after 6 in the sense it's a classical Indian success story meant for the fictional character Chacha Chaudhary. Statement 3 is not meant for statement 6 because this is definitely not a success story, guys. I mean, it's a story where they solve crimes, right? But this is not a success story ना. इनने कुछ सक्सेस थोड़ी कमाई है. सक्सेस की बात किसी और के लिए की गई है. तो स्टेटमेंट 3 किसी और का पार्टनर है. Okay, we'll come and find its partner later. Let's continue. I can see his here. His obviously being meant for Chacha Chaudhary. Why? Because it says his real world origin. So here it was talking about his fictional story, and now the discussion is going to be about his real story. So now we are transitioning from his stories to his origin. So his real world origin is more humble. Pran Kumar Sharma, तो इधर इसको इंट्रोड्यूस किया जा रहा है. A visionary cartoonist created him as a character for a Hindi magazine. It was created for a Hindi magazine. Okay, let me read all the other sentences. I can see still this one does not fit. Fifth, so that's how an Indian visionary created a new art form. Definitely sounds like a conclusion and cannot be my opener yet and cannot be my follower yet. Now 2 and 4 में से ही next आएगा. Second one says when the story appeared in the initial comic book format. Right now it was being discussed about him being featured in a Hindi magazine. So I can't really jump to comic books. There has to be a transition between that. The transition is discussed in statement 4. But the initial strip of magazine did not sell well, so he reformatted it and presented it to a publisher hungry to buy content for one of the first comic books. Okay, here comes the transition from magazines to comic books. Then I can see there's a clear flow. When the story appeared in the comic book format, kids across India went crazy for it, as if there had always been a Chacha Chaudhary shaped hole in the world that has now been filled. So 614 are all done. 614, even 2, right? Yeah. 6142 are done. Now we're left with 3 and statement 5. Let's see. Now, इधर भी थोड़ा confusion होता है क्योंकि I've done this question before. I'll tell you what the confusion can be. The confusion is, should it now be 3-5 or 5-3? Right? Because these are the two statements left. One is a clear conclusion. So that's how an Indian visionary created a new art form. And an ordinary man in a complex land, which took off. Okay. Fourth, no, which one was it? Yeah. Third one is a clear death sentence. Where do I put this? It's a classical success story on a couple of levels. Now look at this one. I can't end my paragraph on an abrupt note. ठीक है, अधूरा नहीं end कर सकते. अगर statement 3 पे end कर रहे हैं, so it leaves it very unanswered. On what levels is it successful? Right? It feels like it's very incomplete. It sounds incomplete. It feels like it needs a statement to explain that. Hence, I cannot end this paragraph on statement 3. I have to write this before, and then I have to give it a proper end later, which is in statement 5. It's a classical success story. So, see, the success story was meant for Pran, not for Chacha Chaudhary. So, this explains the Pran story on a couple of levels, and that's how an Indian created a new art form and a new character. Okay, only because of the mere logic that I cannot end the paragraph on a very ambiguous open-ended note. सिर्फ उसी कारण मैं 3-5 पे जाऊंगी rather than 5-3. So the answer for this is 614-235. Okay, for the people who got it right, I think I see some people come very close. 5-3 again. That is why I've explained the logic well. It should not be 5-3, it should be 3-5. This is a very tricky question, so please be careful of such questions, okay, before locking in the answer. But again, if you're doing para jumbles at the end, even if you get two statements here and there, you've definitely scored good enough questions before it. So even if you get them wrong, you will not have to be stressful because you will not be losing any marks due to negative marking. So that is fine, but still keep practicing so this doesn't happen. ठीक है, let's do another 6 statement parajumble. This is another 6 statement parajumble. Try this, make pairs, find structure, grammatical hints, and read it once in the format that you lock. Okay. This, although is a big dense paragraph, but it's easy because it's giving you a process. So try to follow the process in the lines, okay? It's talking about a launching of a satellite carrying certain probes or scouts, and the scouts being released and getting to their destination, right? That's what the whole process is. You need to find and you need to follow the linear format of it and make the sequence. Okay, looks intimidating, but it's actually not. Sixth, not an opener, starts with but. Fifth, not an opener, not a leader, because it starts with if it all worked out. Okay, so they're all followers. Third, those that survive, कौन survive कर रहे हैं? Again a follower. Once in orbit, the scouts would unfold Gossamer veins. Okay, how did they get to the orbit? We need to find a statement that reaches them, that takes them there. Within 2 minutes, the scouts, okay, again using definite article. That means they have definitely been introduced before, because scouts जो एक spaceship होती है एक टाइप की, is a common noun. Common noun के साथ the लगता नहीं है. कभी हम the pen generally nahi bolte until and unless we are pointing out to a specific pen. So obviously because of this is also definitely a follower. Now 2 is also a follower. Yep. So let us see. Then we are only left with statement 4. So that has to be our intro sentence. Okay. In an attempt to leapfrog the planets, leapfrog any to travel, to jump across the planets and vault into the interstellar age, a bevy of scientists and other luminaries from Tech Nexus and beyond, led by Rohan Sharma, announced a plan on Tuesday to send a fleet of robot spacecraft no bigger than smartphone to Vega Prime, the nearest star system. ठीक है. So this is an intro that I have placed right here. Now I have to check what should come after that. अभी तक डिस्कशन चल रहा है कि भेजने वाले हैं या भेजना चाहते हैं. So I need to continue on those lines. You can see statement 5 is also again discussing if it all worked out. Again, what all worked out mentioned here. This process or this decision. If it all worked out, a cosmically big if that would occur decades and perhaps $10 billion from now, a launch vehicle will deliver a command vessel carrying 1,000 or so small probes to space. Probes and scouts are the same thing. They're small space ships. Okay, so they are the same thing. And this is the first time they are being introduced. See? So बाकी सब में से ये सबसे पहले आएगा scouts. So fifth comes before and then all the scouts will come later. So 4 and 5 are done. Okay, I can see a lot of you had already gotten that. Then there's another statement. Okay, इधर launch की बात चल रही है. Then you guys directly jumped to within 2 minutes. The scouts would be more than 600,000 miles. You've directly jumped to where they will be. You have not still launched them. Guys, please launch them. The launching part is discussed in statement 2. Once in orbit, the scouts would unfold gossamer veins and then propelled by powerful solar streams from Earth, set off one by one like a flock of migrating butterflies across the universe. So पहले वहां पहुंचाओ तो. Okay, so statement 2 takes them out of the space station and puts them right in orbit. So it should be 4, 5, 2, and then others have rightfully made it 1, 6 आना चाहिए फिर. 1, 6. Within 2 minutes, the scouts would be more than 600,000 miles from home. As far as the photon emitters would maintain a tight beam moving at fifth of the speed of light, but it would still take. ठीक है, but is contradicting the speed of light. Although it is so fast, but it would still take for them 20 years to get to Vega Prime. ठीक है, उनका aim तो Vega Prime पहुंचना ही है. And it will take them 20 years even though they're moving at this speed. So 1 and 6 are going together. Now we're left with only statement 3, which is those that survive would zip past the celestial system, making measurements and beaming pictures back to the earth. Okay, so this is a perfect conclusion कि पहुंचने के बाद जो बचेंगे फिर वो वेगा प्राइम तक पहुंचेंगे और फिर वेगा प्राइम की फोटोज लेके अर्थ में वापस पहुंचा देंगे. I can only see the error was of statement 2. Okay, I can only see that 2 was misplaced, but a lot of you jumped directly from statement 5 to statement 1, which I feel like it is also a misunderstanding of this language that is given. But one directly assumes that they are there. See, within 2 minutes, scouts would be more than this one from home. Okay, so first you need to launch them, which is done in statement 2, and then one should come. So the sequence should be 4, 5, 2, 1, 6, 3. I hope you can, I hope my screen, yeah. Okay, let's do another question. Yeah, let's do one more question before we bid farewell. Now, this is a different type of question and definitely can be a part. We have done a question like this yesterday, where 1 and 7, first and last statements are fixed. You just need to unjumble the statements between them. So you have big hint given right here and right here. So try to find its succeeding sentence and its preceding sentence, and then unjumble all the middle ones. Okay, give me a sequence. I will give you guys 5 minutes. Okay, guys, I don't think this is again a very difficult one. Again, it's following a process. It has a series of events that are connected one after the other. So please follow that process and use common logic to come to the answer. Okay, let's discuss. I think I can see some hints of pronoun here. For example, look at this one. They orbit one another. Now, they is mentioned for obviously multiple things. Out of all of them, it's continuing the discussion of two black holes, but the order needs to be understood. So, after reading it, I've realized that it's talking about the collision of two black holes and the aftermath of it. So, before directly jumping to the collision, I need to um, present the current scenario, or how does one get to the collision. Okay, so obviously first I need to tell them, before they collide I need to tell them how do they collide. So two black holes 1.3 billion light years away from part of a binary system, they orbit. Okay, they meant for them, they orbit one another, circling, coming closer and speeding up. ठीक है, घूमते घूमते they're speeding up, and suddenly, in a split second, they spiral and collide. Okay, so DE. Then, then what happens after they collide? After they collide, there's a huge cataclysmic burst of energy which is released. More than all the stars in the universe are putting out that instant. After the collision, this is what happens. Then we're left with two statements. It is larger than each one of the ones that emerged. What is larger? Okay, it is definitely comparing the size of it to other black holes. So it's a whole different black hole that has come across after the collision, which is introduced in C. Okay, a huge burst of energy के बाद a new black hole with a mass of 62 suns is formed, which is clearly bigger than black holes that merged with 36 and 29 solar masses respectively. So it should be C and then B. And then after B, comparing the size of the new black hole to the other black holes, is to statement 7. The equivalent of 3 solar masses has been carried away as gravitational waves. So this should be the answer, DEACB. Okay, I can see some of you have gotten it right. Good job. Some of you have only got a couple of statements here and there. So again, try to understand the logic and let me know if you have any doubt. All right. This was again a good question in the sense there are 5 statements here, and also there are 2 statements above and below it. So you can definitely get a question like this. And this is again a tougher question as compared to the other questions, given it's a little more lengthy. But it should not take you a long time because it is following a simple linear format. It's not a descriptive paragraph where you have to, write a paragraph. Here it's a whole process and it's following its own chronology. Hence, I would say relatively easy. All right, I think this is it from my end. I have one homework question. Let me show that to you in a second. So again, the homework question is very similar to this one. I have the first one and the second one fixed. You just need to unjumble the middle sentences. I have to move the screen just a second. There you go. Now again, a good question, looks intimidating, might take you a little longer, so you can solve it later. And then that's it from my end. Rajneesh ma'am, I have a request. I'm juggling between SSC CGL prep and CAT. Can you tell me how should I balance the two? I mean, I have no clue, Rajneesh, what is your timetable? I have no clue what are your other commitments. Okay, I have no clue besides the prep, are you working or not working? But regardless, I can definitely give you something from my end. Okay, because you have cons, you have LRDI, you have all the other subjects for SSC. So how does that balance is to be strike depends on your requirements. So if you're already good at quants or LRDI, you can give them relatively less time and give more time to verbal if you feel like you're not very good at verbal. If your other exams might require catching up on current affairs, right, on GK, then you can reading of newspaper is also more than enough for you to catch up on your reading. Okay, so whenever you, although you're reading editorials, if you somebody has mentioned, if you're reading editorials, just don't simply read them. Take a pencil, try to underline the main idea, try to underline the tone words. If you're finding any new words, try to underline it, journal them, try to find the meaning of it, try to see how sentence structure works. But however yet बोल के इसके बाद author क्या बोल रहा है, how is he concluding, all of this will give you a better idea of how a paragraph works. So your RCs are also sorted, but also your verbal ability questions are also sorted. So try to be more strategic. Okay, try to list down all the subjects and go from what requires your most attention to what requires your least attention, and then give them time slots accordingly. Chaitanya ma'am, does the Hindu newspaper editorials, will they be helpful for VRC? Definitely. They will definitely be helpful. I think you have time right now. You can read one editorial every single day. Eventually, I would want you to only do RCs. Okay, this is suggested to build the reading habit. If you're already a reader, wonderful. If you're not, and if you want to get into reading editorials or Aeon के essays, पढ़ा जा सकता है. And then I would want you to cut down on that and just solve RCs every day. Because RCs will be on current affairs, philosophy, science, politics. So your knowledge of current affairs and everything will keep expanding. So you don't have to worry about that. And your reading practice will also keep happening simultaneously. So Abhi, what I want from my end from verbal is please start doing one RC every single day. I say that every time when I conclude the lecture. I have only one homework, is that do one RC every single day. And then verbal ability ke question, you can do in 1 week, you can sit and solve a couple of them together. But one RC is minimum requirement from my end. That one RC will solve your reading skills and also your comprehension skills. So that is it. And then you can definitely add as per your weaknesses. So we have done para jumbles, we have done para completion, we have done para summary. If you feel like para jumbles is not very, you're not very good at it, then you can definitely implement a few practice exercises during a verbal practice. So I think 1 hour, yeah, Rajneesh, you're preparing full time. That's wonderful. Giving minimum 1 hour or 40 minutes to verbal prep is not a lot. Okay, एक RC solve करने में maximum you can't even give more than 10 minutes, right? But after that 10 minutes, please give 20 to 30 minutes in purely analyzing that RC, and then in the other 5 to 10 minutes, you can do two to three para jumbles, 2 to 3 para summaries, 2 to 3 para completion easily. So please give verbal at least 1 hour. If it's a weak subject for you, please give it 140 to 1 hour easily. Okay, and try sticking to it. You definitely make a schedule, but it's important to stick to the schedule once made. Okay, then definitely update me. I mentioned in the lecture, if you want anything from my end, if you want any practice lectures, if you want anything else, any particular sessions from my end, please let me know. I will change my schedule accordingly and I will add those if it's beneficial for other students also. Rajneesh, yes, one RC daily and one, you can definitely do more than one VA questions. So it all depends on what you're weak at. I would recommend do two each. So you can do two every day, I think. So you can do two para jumbles one day, two para summary one day, 2 para completion one day. Even that works. Okay, so stick to your schedule. If you can give 40 minutes, then you can do one RC and one VA question. That is fine. If you can do more than 40 minutes, then try to do 2 questions. That's good enough prep. ठीक है, and please syllabus खत्म हो गया है तो mocks देना चालू कर लो. Everything depends on your mocks, to be honest. Okay, whatever you're scoring in mocks, that is the a good reality check than solving at without a timer or at your expense. So please start giving mocks. Set a timeline for mocks also. Whenever I think the syllabus is almost over, next week we will be done with all the topics of कैट वीए के सारे टॉपिक्स हो चुके होंगे आरसी के हमने थोड़े बेसिक सेशन लिए हैं आई एम प्लानिंग टू टेक अ कपल ऑफ आरसी सेशंस आफ्टर दैट वीक so I will take some good cat level RCs. We will discuss strategies and I will take different topics of RCs. So, and I will teach certain strategies for speed and everything, right? We will purely focus for a couple of weeks on RCs and then after that we'll do grammar and vocabulary. So, till that time, please finish whatever syllabus was left and then start your mocks. Mocks would be a big leap. Then start with sectional solving, 40 minutes sectional solving, and then move to mocks. ठीक है? I mean, don't intimidate yourself. Don't scare yourself. You've definitely got it. Okay, I can't give you an exact schedule, but minimum, please give 1 hour if VRC is a subject that you're not very good at. Okay, and please solve the homework. Put the answer in the comment box. I will reply to it if it's correct or incorrect. All right, then I will see you guys next week. Till then, please keep practicing.